Christy A. Adamo.
The names of the lost were remembered at the Ground Zero Memorial, every one of the more than 2,700 people killed in New York on the morning of September 11, 2001. 2 moments of silence were held to commemorate when each plane hit the towers. U.S. President Joe Biden attended the somber ceremony, along with former Presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. 2 decades have passed, but for those who lost loved ones, it seems like yesterday.
In the last 20 years, my family and I have at times known unbearable sorrow and disbelief about the lives that would never be.
Firefighters remembered the men and women who died trying to save the lives of others, a city still healing 20 years after the worst terrorist attack on U.S. soil. In Shanksville, Pennsylvania, bells were rung in remembrance by the 2 emergency responders first on the scene after United Airlines Flight 93 went down as passengers tried to stop the terrorists.
It's one thing to say, I know I should step up, another thing to do it. That's genuine heroism.
President Biden chose not to give a nationwide address on this day, but Americans did hear from former President George W. Bush, the nation's leader on 9/11.
The world was loud with carnage and sirens, and then quiet with missing voices that would never be heard again.
A ceremony was held at the Pentagon, too, where terrorists crashed American Airlines Flight 77 into the building that houses the country's top military leaders.
Never forget those who were murdered by terrorists. Never forget those who rushed to save their lives and gave theirs in exchange.
This anniversary comes less than 2 weeks after America's chaotic end of the war in Afghanistan that began after 9/11. A war that killed mastermind Osama bin Laden but left behind other extremists. America's defense secretary, who fought in Afghanistan, promised the job is not over.
It will always be our duty to fulfill their missions and to live up to their goodness.
20 years later, Americans are concerned that al-Qaeda, the terror network behind the 9/11 attacks, will regroup in Afghanistan. The pain of this day remains fresh in millions of minds. With renewed fears, something like this could happen again. Jennifer Johnson, Global News, Washington.
From the ashes of the World Trade Center and the Pentagon rose America's longest war. A grieving nation sought to find those responsible and stop another attack.
9/11 is always hard for me.
Tom Amenta served 2 tours in Afghanistan in 2002 and 2004. He risked his life with pride and purpose.
We had a high-value target list of people that were directly responsible for 9/11, and we were going to find them, and we were going to either capture or kill them. That was it.
2 decades later, the end of the U.S. mission carries far less clarity. Afghanistan is back under Taliban control. There's not a single U.S. troop on the ground.
The truth is I can't get around the fact that I absolutely believe that something bad is going to come back out of that country in the next 7 to 10 years.
For many veterans and their families, this September 11th feels more painful. Grief mixed with anger and one lingering question. Was the war worth it?
I do not feel that my son died in vain. I think it's important for me to make that clear.
Jill Stephenson's son Ben was just 13 when he watched the Twin Towers fall. From that point on, he vowed to serve his country, becoming an Army Ranger. He was killed in a firefight with the Taliban in 2009 at age 21.
It's very sad and maddening to watch 20 years of blood, sweat, and tears of our military just get wiped off, wiped away in the blink of an eye. Making it worse, rubbing salt into that wound for me is that it comes on the heels of the 20th anniversary of 9/11.
Dr. Shelley Amen served in the U.S. Army before becoming a psychiatrist who works with veterans.
People are feeling it acutely right now.
On this September 11th, she encourages veterans and their families to find support and know that healing is possible.
They're really feeling like their post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms are flared up. They're feeling a deep sense of betrayal in a lot of ways.
Nearly 2 decades after he left Afghanistan, that's what motivates Tom Amenta. He has worked to document the stories of those who served, hoping to use this grim anniversary to remember what was gained, not lost, in America's longest war.
We kept the world safe around the world, not just Americans, but Canadians, the Aussies, everyone in NATO, everybody who stepped into that country and said 9/11 will not happen again.
Jackson Proskow, Global News, Washington.